When I first got diagnosed, I also found myself in a very, very dark place afterwards because it was just my oncologist. I had a meeting with him. He told me I had 3 years to live. It sent me into a spiral. It also gave me a lot of push to fight because I was like, no, like I'm not going to be just another number or statistic. My name is Shannon. I got diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic colorectal cancer at the age of 26, April 13th, 2024. I am from Ontario, Canada, in a little town called Fenelon Falls. My husband and I bought our first house there almost 2 years ago before I got sick, and we flipped it and turned it into our home. Overwhelming. I've been fighting for almost a year, and I feel like I'm still processing that I actually have cancer. Um, and in my case, it's honestly devastating because I am now considered palliative at 27 years old. So it's honestly a whirlwind of emotions. Um, you have a good day, you have a bad day, you get news, and there's been some good news, and then there's bad news that kind of takes over. So overwhelming for sure. My symptoms kind of came on in October of 2023. Um, and it was pretty on like sudden. So after I would eat big meals, I noticed a large, like in my left lower abdomen, heavy pain. And when I say pain, I mean like buckled over, like painful. And it was when I went to go have a bowel movement or anything, and it literally felt like things were trying to pass and they couldn't. And then very quickly, by February of 2024, every time I would start to eat, I was puking after I ate. Even with smaller meals or snacks, I was puking. Um, Nausea. And again, I tried cutting out certain foods as well because I'm like, maybe it is gluten, maybe this is what my doctors are saying, but nothing was working. And the pain got so bad to the point where I would literally buckle over and just be gasping for air because there was no relief no matter what I did. Um, and that's kind of what really pushed me to be so consistent with getting 3 different opinions and meeting with a surgeon because the pain was just awful. And I knew that it's not right. Like there was something major going on. It wasn't just a food intolerance, which my doctor tried to say it was, which again, I was 26 at the time. I looked healthy. I seemed healthy. My blood work came back normal. Um, but it doesn't mean that there's something else going on. And this is where a lot of people, especially in the younger age, are getting dismissed because they look and seem healthy and no one thinks cancer, right? I started with my family doctor, and then in February when it got really bad and I was getting, essentially dismissed and not taken seriously, he booked me for a CT scan of October 2024, which was a full year later, which I knew I wasn't going to make. He gave me a referral for an ultrasound, and again, he booked that for June of the next year as well. So like I knew I wasn't going to make it to those appointments. So then I was going to urgent care and seeing another doctor. She was incredible. She was listening and she was like, no, something's wrong. Let's get you for tests right away. She got me in for an ultrasound right away, CT and an MRI. My ultrasound showed a whole bunch of lesions on my liver and my ovary. It's just like something's going on. We need to rule this out further. And then that's when I went and I did my CT and MRI and met with another family friend who's works in Toronto, which is at the hospital I'm getting treated at right now. And I went for a CT scan. They reviewed it, and then 2 weeks later, I had my MRI. And when I came out of my MRI appointment, she was waiting there with a surgeon. And I came out and I just thought I was coming for an appointment, and they were just looking at me and they're like, "We need to talk." And I just had this gut feeling. I was like, this is it kind of thing. But again, I wasn't expecting cancer. Cancer was just not on the table for me. And they were like, you're a complete blockage. Like, we need to admit you tonight. We're going to try and colonoscopy and get you in for emergency surgery. And my surgeon specializes in this. And he is like, it looks like it's cancer. He's like, I can't confirm what stage, but it looks like cancer. And I remember just sitting in the ER all night, waiting to be admitted and going through the process and just sitting there, just numb and not even like taking it in because I was like, no, like I didn't believe it. I was like, no, they're going to do a colonoscopy. It's not like, just no, you know? And then I end up getting admitted the next morning early. I had a colonoscopy. They weren't able to complete it. I was under awake sedation for it, so I remember everything. And on the screen, I remember them seeing trying to advance the camera, and my tumor was so big that he couldn't even advance the camera to complete the colonoscopy. And I saw my tumor completely blocking my sigmoid colon, and so he was like, "Okay," he's like, "We're like, I'm admitting you to my floor. We're doing surgery." I was originally supposed to have like a 1 to 2 hour surgery, and I was supposed to have an ostomy bag put on and um, go from there and then start chemo. I ended up waking up and having a 6 hour surgery, being stapled, waking up being stapled top to bottom, no ostomy bag. And I was like, obviously, you think the worst in this case because you're like, oh my God, like they weren't able to do it. It wasn't successful. Something happened, like whatever. And of course, you're in the hospital. So by the time you wake up, you're not seeing your surgeon for hours after. So I was just thinking of every possibility. So they finally came to see me and they fully said, we were able to actually resect your whole tumor, which was incredible. And she came in and she goes, so it is confirmed it is stage 4 cancer. And then she listed, like I said, everything that they removed from my body, how the surgery went. And she goes, I know this is a lot to process, but the fact that we were able to get this all out is good. So she's like, this is essentially the surgery that we would have wanted you to have in X amount of months from chemotherapy. So the fact that we're able to do it up front is huge. She goes, but we weren't able to touch your liver. You have more tumors than liver right now. And if we did it, we would honestly kill you. You'd go into liver failure right away or you die on the table. We can't touch it. So that's why the plan was to immediately start chemotherapy because my oncologist said, if we don't start you on chemotherapy, your liver is going to shut down anyways within the next 3 months. So they resected my whole tumor, reconnected my colon, removed 13 lymph nodes. 11 came back positive for cancer. They removed my right ovary as it had a Krukenberg tumor. And then part of my peritoneum, it spread to over my liver, but they were able to remove that patch, thank God. And then my left ovary, they left because he wanted to give me a chance to do egg retrieval as I'm so young. But unfortunately, with Krukenberg tumors, there's almost 100% chance that if it's in the right, it's going to spread to the left. It's just a very aggressive tumor. And so I was in the hospital for about a week. And then while still recovering, once I got home, I went to another hospital in Toronto, started egg retrieval right away. So I was doing the hormones and needles for about 3 weeks. I did an egg retrieval. I got 7 eggs, which I'm very grateful for. It's not a whole lot, but it's something. And that was probably the worst week. And then I also got you can see my port inserted as well. So that was probably the worst month of my entire life because I was at home trying to heal from this major, major surgery. And the hormones that I was being pumped with for my egg retrieval were making me so sick. So imagine trying to puke, and every time you puke, it felt like my staples, my whole abdomen was ready to rip open. Every single time. It was awful, so painful, but it was my only shot to do egg retrieval. So I knew I had to push through and do it because once I start chemo, like that's it kind of thing. And I remember just laying there and just processing. I remember looking at Cody and being like, and we both just kind of stared at each other. And then we had a really good cry together because we knew our lives were literally it's never going to go back to how it was. And they said within a few hours, an oncologist is going to come see me, talk to me, answer questions, go through everything. And I remember calling my family to confirm everything, and they came out right away. And ever since that day, our lives have been hectic. So many appointments, so many, surgeries, procedures, just never going to be the same again for me, my husband, but also like my parents, his parents. Everything's changed now. It'll never go back to normal. I hope I beat this thing. I really do. But right now, that's not promised, and it's not really in the books for me. So um, yeah, it's just kind of figuring things out. And me and my husband are doing a whole lot of living in the moment and taking one day at a time. I didn't actually send my tumor after the surgery. I sent it down to Boston for testing, and luckily I was able to because I came and I got matched to an immunotherapy, and I think I'm having such a well response because of that immunotherapy. It's for my specific tumor. It's matched to it for my the tumor markers and all that, and I'm very grateful for that because it was a lot of money, but it was totally worth it. So every time I talk to somebody, I recommend this program down in Boston saying you might not become a match, but if you do become a match, you now have the opportunity to add immunotherapy or a chemotherapy specific to your tumor and gives you that extra shot. So I did genetic testing separately. Everything came back negative, which is still mind boggling because I'm still trying to figure out how this happened. But no, so the tumor, it's like a tumor marker. So my tumor marker, it's like it's like a whole bunch of numbers and letters. It's really long. And that specific tumor marker is what matched me to my immunotherapy. We started treatment right away. It was chemotherapy originally, but luckily my tumor came back as a match, so I was able to add my immunotherapy on top of it. Radiation is not part of my treatment right now. I guess just because I'm having a good response to the chemo, radiation, he said, would be the next step is if I stop responding kind of thing. So it's off the table right now for my liver. So it's chemoimmunotherapy. As of today, on Monday, this Monday coming up, will be my 21st round of chemotherapy. On round 13, though, in November, I did have a really bad reaction to my one type of chemotherapy, and it sent me into an anaphylactic shock. I was sitting there, I was fine. My husband ran out to the car for literally a minute, and all I remember is just texting him, being like, "Coming right now." And by the time he ran in from the truck to the hospital, I was surrounded by 6 nurses and a doctor pumping meds into me, and it took 3 rounds to get me to respond. And then I talked with my oncologist, and unfortunately, with this type of chemotherapy, it is quite common to happen where people develop reactions, or it's essentially your body saying that they've had enough because it's such a high dose and just a very strong chemo. So for my round 14, we tried it again, but we did steroids and stuff prior and Benadryl to where if I did react again, hopefully it wouldn't be as severe and we can catch it. I did react again. I had a level 2 reaction. So that chemotherapy is now dropped. So as of now, I'm only on my immunotherapy and my second type of chemotherapy because there was 3 in total. So now I'm only on the 2 of 3. And we're kind of hoping, I have another scan in April to see what is happening. We're hoping that I'm going to keep responding because if I'm not, I don't really have many options after this. Canada just isn't as far as advanced as other places they are. The surgery, I do need a surgery on my liver, but here in Canada, it's called HAPE, HAIP, hepatic arterial infusion pump. I need that surgery to essentially save my life. Right now in Canada, it's a clinical trial. I don't qualify for it. I just found out that I did not get accepted. And this is because I still technically have cancer in my left ovary. So I would have to remove my left ovary, which would send me into medical induced or surgical induced menopause, which is so harsh on the body. So my surgeon doesn't want to necessarily do that right away because there's a chance that I might um, remove my ovary, but then still not get accepted into the clinical trial. So it's a huge risk for something that's not guaranteed. So as of right now, I am just continuing chemotherapy in hopes that I'm still responding, in hopes that um, it's going to kind of pull me over until I do find something. So that's why I'm trying to like bring awareness, but also try and reach out or have other people to talk to, even in the States, Europe, other places that do offer this surgery, because in the States, the surgery is more of a routine there. And it's not a clinical trial. But again, because I'm in Canada going to the States, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's just not also realistic. So I'm trying to raise a GoFundMe to hopefully I can even get that as a consideration. But right now it's just not on the table for me. Everything comes in waves. So like from being diagnosed to, and every single time I go for chemo, I get blood work done. So seeing my numbers fluctuate or my CEA go up or whatever, it's just a whirlwind of emotions. When I first got diagnosed, I also found myself in a very, very dark place afterwards because it was just my oncologist. I had a meeting with him. He told me I had 3 years to live. It sent me into a spiral. It also gave me a lot of push to fight because I was like, no, like I'm not going to be just another number or statistic. But I feel like even to this day, like I could have a great day with my family and it's just a wave that will come on and you start thinking about things or you get caught into research and like it's just your mind is such a powerful thing and I think your mindset during a cancer fight is everything. It's either you can let it win or you can use it as an advantage to help push you through. But there's going to be days that you just genuinely can't help the thoughts, the dark thoughts, the and luckily my husband is incredible. Like Cody, he's really good. He notices when I'm starting to spiral a little bit or if I'm going quiet and everything. He's really good at trying to get me out of it, talking me through it, taking me out to keep me busy. But your mindset during cancer is probably the scariest thing as well. Before cancer, I used to have like there's a few, but like for example, my hair. So like my hair now is very, very thin. I was very grateful before cancer. I had the longest, thickest hair. I used to get it thinned all the time because it grew so fast. It was blonde, beautiful. And then with chemo, luckily I didn't lose all of it, but I lose probably 95% of it. So it doesn't look horrible right now, but I have this powder that you put on to help blend it in. There's just very little left. And again, I'm praying that I beat this thing and that I can get my hair back, but that's the little thing. And next thing, as you can obviously see, is this rash on my face is a side effect from my chemo. Um, it's very dry. It's painful. It's one of those things that I can't even put makeup on it. If I do, it flares up awfully. And again, being in Canada, it's so cold that it's triggering it and making it even worse. So it's just a very painful thing. And I have a lot of scarring from it, which is something that I know it will never completely go away or be perfect again. And no matter what I do, and there's things that help, but because I'm continuing with my chemotherapy, every round that I get, it makes it flare up again. So I'm in a flare up right now. So this is another thing that's very painful. And it also, like, there's days that it gets really bad where I don't even want to leave the house to go see people because I can't put makeup on to, you know, hide it or feel myself again or anything like that. That's another thing I'm struggling with. Another thing is too my port, because I'm so skinny and lost so much weight, it really sticks out of my chest. So now even when I go out, I feel like I'm constantly hiding it, and I'm really trying not to worry about it too much because it's part of my fight. And then another thing, my scar on my abdomen. So like wearing bathing suits, just wearing comfortable clothing that, I feel like now I'm hiding it. And because of how my incision is, there's like even in like a tight like t-shirt or tank top in the summer, I feel like I'm always in baggy now because you can see the outline kind of it, if that makes sense. So that's something that I feel like is going to be a constant battle. Another thing is I lost 26 pounds since October, or like the when I had my symptoms, and I've been struggling to get that back. I eat really good, I eat really clean, and recently I've been trying to do Pilates. But my chemo is every other week. So on my chemo week, I don't go. I'm so weak and I feel awful. But my off week, when I'm trying to kind of bounce back from chemo, I go as much as I can. So I'm trying to do these things to gain weight, but I'm so skinny right now and just I feel like I don't even recognize myself. So that's another thing where I feel like I'm constantly wearing baggy clothes to hide it and just so my body image is a struggle, and I know it's never going to go back to how it was, and I think that's just a really hard thing to grasp onto and to accept. Don't ever give up. Just because a doctor tells you you're palliative, you're going on hospice, you're you have X amount of months or years to live. Don't let that win, because there's always that chance. Within my stance, I have less than a 5% chance of beating this, but there's still a chance. Hang on to that chance and don't let the doctors tell you otherwise. Take things into your own hands. Get a second opinion. Do as much as you can at home, whether it's a holistic point or changing your diet, anything like that. Take things into your own hands. Don't just sit there and let one doctor dictate your outcome. There's always another opinion, and there's always somebody who's going to be willing to fight with you. So just don't ever lose hope. Ever. It's easier said than done, but just hang on to that little bit. No matter how small, just hang on to it.